I grew up in a healthy home. I don't think I have any trauma. So what do I look for instead? So this is a great point. I have met I've met many people who grew up in pretty darn healthy homes, and they don't have anything to point at and be like, when I was 8, this happened to me and that sort of thing. Now, trauma is more dynamic than that. And I will note that there's trauma from things like neglect and stuff like that. That doesn't have to be like a single instance. You've got some language for it is, you've got whacks like big punches, and then you've got lacks, which are like neglect type things, or like big T trauma, like bam, or little T trauma, which is like a million tiny cuts over time. So the trauma doesn't have to be necessarily defined in this really narrow lens. However, I will say that, let's say you did grow up in a healthy home and things were healthy, and generally speaking, like, there's no trauma there to speak of in the home. Well, I would encourage you to remember that the culture we live in right now is so far from biblical sexuality and so far from healthy sexuality that just existing in this culture is everything you need to develop these survival processes, or a medication kind of relationship with pornography or sexually acting out. So what do you look for instead? I would say you look for that which introduced you to solving your problems that way. And it may just be opportunity. I remember when I was 9-ish, me and a friend walked out behind the church we were going to, and there, hidden in the crook of a tree, was a porn magazine of some kind. I don't remember what kind it was, but we were like, oh my gosh, we're at church, man. And there it is, back behind there. And we looked at it a little bit. We took it to my dad, who was in the church. We handed it to him. He's like, it was kind of funny. Anyway, the point is, that opportunity in and of itself, that is enough to create secrecy, and enough to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's enough to start that process of solving your problems through that sort of a medication. I mean, my hormones are certainly all alight in that moment, and if you have moments like that as well, and there's some exposure, and yeah, it can be very easy to end up in a place where you're solving problems that way.